Hi everyone and welcome back to the garden. So we have a really exciting task today, something I wasn't expecting to doing, but something I decided, why not make the most of the space while it's there. Fisher Park Outlet, which is a local outlet store. I'm not sure when they got started, but they have had the plant sale that I went to earlier this year, and they have bulbs right now. And they had a ton of bulbs left in these big brown cardboard boxes, and I went through there and looked at what they had. And so I'm going to be making use of my vegetable garden space and all of my open raised beds to plant some flowers, specifically tulips for cutting in the spring. As you know, I just recently did a video about removing these raised beds and redoing the configuration in the spring. So I think this is the perfect opportunity to make use of this space before that happens. So I didn't count how many bulbs I got, but I probably have close to 1,000. Majority of them, maybe not a majority, yeah, probably a majority, or daffodils. I did just remove the spruces up front, and that was a really great area to add bulbs in the future after I get that area established in the spring. So my plan is to put tulips in the vegetable garden and also daffodils in the vegetable garden. And what I'm going to do, some of these are daffodil mixes, and so when they come up and bloom, before their blooms fade, I'm going to pull those out of the ground and plant them where I would want them to come up next year. And that way I can specifically see, what flower I want in which area as it's bloomed. And I think that's a really good suggestion if you've never done that before. Some of these will also go in containers. I have a little bit of soil left over from this year and some plastic containers, so I'm going to grab that and plant some of these tulips and daffodils mix. I also have some alliums. I went and divided everything up into buckets. So we have some alliums. We also have a few crocus. There's like 15. They're called Remembrance. I'm not going to go through all the names of these, and I'm not going to put pictures on the screen. Fondant hyacinth, but if you're interested in any of these mostly came from Brex, and so pretty much every one of these bags came from Brex. Actually, they have Brex on there. Now I did get 2 big bags of daffodils. This one is actually King Alfred trumpet daffodil. It's a yellow daffodil, and I'm probably going to put every one of these on the south side bed next to the fence here that I filled with perennials this spring. Now that I've cut everything back, I can really see what needs color in spring. And this is going to be a great opportunity to add some daffodils in that space, because I can't recall that I added any at all. I don't remember where I planted all my bulbs. So I know where I didn't plant bulbs pretty much in big areas. So some of these will go there on this south side. Some of the other daffodils I got, which are all of these, may go into the willow, and then some are going to go into the raised beds for planting next year. Some of the tulips I picked out are really interesting, and I have a whole bucket right here. I will go through the names of these really quickly because some of them are pretty cool. And then one I stumbled upon, which I didn't expect to find, is this whole bag. Let's see, is this 100? Yes, 100 Queen of Night tulips. Now these are a really, really dark purple, almost black. And these are going to go in the raised bed garden as well. Tulips do not tend to return as well. There are some mixes that do, and so that's why I'm putting all of the tulips in the raised bed, because I don't want to spend the time putting them in the ground for them just to not come back next year. And that'll allow me to have a really beautiful early spring vegetable garden space before I rip out these beds. It will allow me to pull the tulips out of the ground easily. A lot of people just recommend, and I've had comments on my videos earlier, just plant the tulips in the ground and then just pull them up in the spring. Well, when you have clay soil like I do, you can't just pull up plants like that. They break off at the ground. You actually have to dig them up, which is really difficult. And so putting them in the raised beds will allow me, because the soil is so fluffy, just to pull them right out of the ground, cut them off, and bring them inside for some beautiful color in spring, and just kind of leave them here if I want some beautiful color just in the backyard. So I'm going to run through some of these tulips right quick. Some of these were like 6 for $20, and this is one of the 6. And so you see how many options here. This is Tulip Purple Flag, Miranda, Yosemite, Daydream, Foxtrot, Sunny Prince, and Emperor. I have some Parrot variety tulips as well that I wasn't expecting to find. So Parrot tulips are these beautiful colors, but they have this really frilly edges of their petals. And so there's apricot, rainbow, and I think there's black parrot as well. And we have a 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 perennial tulip collection. For sure, some of these that are labeled as perennial, I may put in a different part of the bed so I can recognize those in the spring. And then these could potentially be replanted because this mix includes Purissima, which is a beautiful blonde white tulip, Red Dynasty, Sun Gold, Comet, and Guinevere. There's some called Sun Gold Jumbo tulip. This one it's called Flaming Beauties, and so it has a lot of different like orange, yellows, and reds. Flaming Flag, Rainbow Parrot, Carnival del Rio, Princess Irene, Lemon Meringue, Abba Dream Tulip, Orange Marmalade Tulip, and Canary Melon. And so I'm going to plant these in rows in the vegetable garden. I'm not going to mix them up because it'll be easier for me if I plant them in rows to move them elsewhere in the garden if I want to in the spring. So some of these are red colors, which I don't like in my garden, so I won't be moving those. But to the ones that I specifically love after they bloom, I can cut that bloom off, take it inside for something lovely in the home, and then I can pull that tulip up and plant it elsewhere in the garden as well. So we're just gonna get started. A lot of these tulips are gonna go in this metal raised bed that I have right here. Some of the others are gonna go in the wood bed, but I also have a metal bed back where I grow my tomatoes. So what can't go up here may be placed back there just so I have some cutting flowers. Got some leaves to cover over, so I'm just gonna pull the soil back, layer in my tulips, cover, add some little fertilizer, and do the same thing to make this really easy. Really easy to plant tulips in a raised bed because that soil is so fluffy. There's not a whole lot of digging to do. So it's going to look like I'm planting these tulips really close together, and I am, but tulips can be planted a little closer, particularly if they're only going to be a one-season plant. And so I have some of this bulb fuel that I'm going to be adding after I lay these in here. I got this for probably like $1 at Home Depot last fall on sale, and I've been saving it from that since that time. Tulips generally, just a general rule of thumb, are planted 5 to 6 inches below the ground, and the pointy side goes up. So they're really easy to plant. These are going to be a little lower in the bed, so it'll keep the foliage kind of contained where it's not spilling over. And this bed right here will not be in the way of what I'm going to be doing in the spring. So this bed could potentially stay a little longer, and then I could remove it after I've finished all my other work. As an idea of how much I spent on these tulips, it was right over $100 for all the bulbs that I got. They have, if you're local, they have big bags, or they have big boxes that you can get the bulbs out of, and those are 6 for $20, and then they have individual wrapped ones, and I just did kind of a combination of both. The big bags that I showed you of the daffodils are closer to, I think, $25 a piece, but they're 50% off now. So really good option if you're local. And they still have some left over, and I'm sure they'll sell them until they're not able to be sold again. And they're very healthy looking bulbs. So they did come from Brex, like I mentioned, but they're not dried out or anything, which is sometimes a concern with discount things like that. So these are just going to be kind of a row of each. And if you ever want to know how many bulbs you should plant in a space, it differs depending on if it's a variety of tulip or daffodil. But in general, you can find bulb counters online. Sometimes stores that sell bulbs, like Color Blends, will have a calculator to tell you how many bulbs you should plant in any given space. And that's a good indication of if you have like a 10 square foot area, whether there's like 10 per square foot, that type thing. So you can see how closely I'm planting these, and they're still a good 3 inches apart, at least 2 to 3 inches. And they could probably be planted a little closer, but I don't want it so crammed that they don't bloom well. So I might be able to fit all of my tulips in here except the black ones. So this is doing a really good job of filling the space. And it's really quick. So I'm going to add some bulb fuel. I'm just going to shake it out over these tulips. Then I'm going to go ahead and move this dirt back into place. Then I'll start here with my handy trowel to mark where I need to start my next row. What I am going to do is keep these bags, and I will go through and jot down the names of all of these. That way in the spring I can know what name it is, and if I want to order more or add them to my list of favorite things, I can. These are called Ronaldo. It's a big bag. I'm going to save those to the end and go through all these little bags first. Kind of want to do a zigzag pattern if you can, to get the most out of your space. Some of these are a little dried out, so I'm not even going to plant this one. You can see it's kind of smushy. Fill the rest of this space with this last bag that's not mixed. And that, my friends, is how you plant bulbs into your vegetable garden, your raised bed. Super easy. Something I really recommend, especially if you're not growing a whole lot of spring vegetables. And in this case, I'm not going to be, because these beds will have to come out and I just have to pull those anyway. And my kale that I would typically plant in the bed usually carries over through summer. So I don't want to plant anything vegetable-wise that's just going to be pulled out of these beds when they come out. This will give plenty of opportunity to get the most impact out of these tulips. I still have a couple bags of tulips left. These are the mixed collections. And so I'm going to finish tucking those into the bed, and then I'm going to move on to the daffodils. Same process, daffodils, just follow the spacing directions on the bag. Typically you'd plant daffodils a little further apart because they do naturalize and clump up. In my case, I'm going to be planting them closer in these raised beds because that's not their permanent home. They'll be moved in the spring. If I like the daffodil, I'll move it to another location in the landscape after it's started blooming and after I feel it's time to be moved. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video. Get out there and get you some discount bulbs and add them to your garden so you can have some beautiful impact in the spring. Thanks for joining me, and remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care, everyone. Bye.